What would happen if every rule you've ever known just disappeared? No laws, no parents, no consequences. Just you and everyone around you left completely to your own nature. That's exactly the question William Golding asked in 1954 when he wrote his novel, Lord of the Flies. And his answer wasn't pretty. Golding was a World War II veteran who watched civilized nations tear each other apart. He came to a disturbing conclusion about human nature, one that became the entire foundation of this novel. Here's the setup. A group of British schoolboys survive a plane crash on an uninhabited tropical island during a fictional nuclear war. With no adults and no rescue in sight, they attempt to govern themselves. Ralph is elected leader. He establishes rules. A conch shell grants the right to speak, and a signal fire becomes their lifeline to rescue. But it doesn't last. Jack, the leader of the choir turned hunters, begins pulling boys away from Ralph's democratic order and towards something more primal. Fear of an imaginary beast consumes the group. The signal fire dies. A boy named Simon is murdered in a frenzy. Piggy, the voice of reason, is killed deliberately, and by the end, Ralph is hunted like an animal across a burning island, saved only by the arrival of a naval officer. But what Golding is really saying runs much deeper than a survival story. Lord of the Flies reveals that savagery is not an external force, but an inherent part of human nature, kept in check only by the fragile structures of civilization. When those structures collapse, the darkness within us emerges unchecked. The first moment where Golding shows civilization cracking is when Jack decides to paint his face. The mask was a thing on its own, behind which Jack hid, liberated from shame and self-consciousness. Think about what that word liberated means here. Jack isn't gaining freedom. He's being released from the internal rules that civilization taught him. Guilt, shame, empathy. The mask doesn't create a new Jack. It reveals what was already underneath. The paint gives him permission to act on impulses that society trained him to suppress. This is Golding's first argument. Civilization doesn't make us good. It just makes us behave. Remove the mask of society, and a different mask takes its place. One that liberates the savagery within. While the other boys are terrified of an external beast lurking on the island, one boy sees the truth. Maybe there is a beast. Maybe it's only us. Simon is the only character who understands what Golding is trying to tell the reader. There is no beast hiding in the jungle. The beast is the boys themselves. Their fear, their aggression, their capacity for violence. And the tragedy is that Simon is murdered by the very savagery he tried to warn them about. Killed in a blind frenzy by boys who mistook him for the monster they were so afraid of. The irony is devastating. They became the beast they feared. And then Golding makes it undeniable. In one of the most disturbing scenes of the novel, Simon hallucinates a conversation with a pig's head mounted on a stick, an offering Jack's hunters left for the beast. The head, swarming with flies, speaks to him. Fancy thinking the beast was something you could hunt and kill. You knew, didn't you? I am a part of you. This is the moment the novel says the quiet part out loud. The Lord of the Flies, which is a translation for the name Beelzebub, a name for the devil, tells Simon directly that evil cannot be hunted, it cannot be killed, it cannot be left behind on an island or locked away, because it lives inside every human being. This isn't a beast problem, it's a people problem, and that's exactly why civilization exists. Not because people are naturally good and need a place to live, but because people are naturally dangerous and need something to keep them in check. By the final chapter, the island is literally on fire. Ralph is running for his life. And then a naval officer appears on the beach. Rescue. But Ralph doesn't celebrate. Ralph wept for the end of innocence, the darkness of man's heart. and the fall through the air of the true, wise friend called Piggy. Ralph isn't crying because of what happened on the island. He's crying because of what he learned while there. He now knows something he can never unknow. That the capacity for evil isn't something that belongs to bad people, it belongs to everyone. The officer's arrival restores the structure of civilization, but it can't undo what Ralph has seen. The boys will go home, they'll put on their school uniforms, but the darkness was always there, and it will always be there. Golding didn't write Lord of the Flies to tell a story about boys on an island. He wrote it to hold it up to a mirror. The island is a microcosm, a small-scale model of the entire world, and his message is simple but uncomfortable. Without the structures of civilization, without rules, without accountability, human beings will default to violence. Not because we're taught to be violent, but because something in us already is. The scariest part of Lord of the Flies isn't the beast in the jungle. It's that there never was a beast in the jungle. Because the beast in the jungle was always us.